It's Friday, July 31st, 2020. I'm Greg Nibbler, and this is Digital Trends Live. Yes, indeed. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thanks for tuning in wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. So hit subscribe and join the chat, and let's get you started off with some news right now. Not a day after Amazon appeared before the Congressional Antitrust Committee, they revealed their profits. And guess what? They were record-breaking. Amazon doing okay during all of this, and here is what they reported. So their profit doubled since last year during this same period to $5.2 billion is what they reported. With but their sales, their net sales overall were $88.9 billion as the pandemic and the ensuing rush to buy everything online actually really made a huge surge for them. So during the second quarter of 2020, Amazon increased its grocery delivery capacity by over 160%, tripling its grocery pickup locations, as that again was a booming business over the last few months. They also said that they paid $500 million in hazard pay bonuses. Now that's to account for some of the issues that workers have brought up over unsafe work conditions. They said they spent $4 billion on coronavirus-related expenses like protective equipment and so on. But they also said they created over 175,000 new jobs, and that they're bringing 125,000 more on. This is all part of their statement, as all of these companies are reporting their profit. But again, Amazon, $5.2 billion in profit for quarter two, breaking their own record. So they're doing okay during all of this. Nonetheless, that's all something that's probably going to be taken into account when the Antitrust Committee continues on their investigation. But you can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on with trending news, let's go back a couple of weeks ago to the great Twitter hack of 2020. As you recall, I believe it was July 15th when a Bitcoin scam took over a number of different very big accounts on Twitter and started posting trying to fish people to actually go and donate money to this thing. It was a scam. Now Twitter is revealing slowly a little bit more information about what happened. They said that what it was a few employees were targeted in a phone spear phishing attack. So a phone spear phishing, what generally that probably means is that somebody actually called and was able to solicit this information from these employees, whether they impersonated someone or however that worked. They said it could be posing as colleagues or members of Twitter's own security team, and got these people to reveal their credentials. And it shows how good a lot of these spear phishing campaigns are. A lot of us think, no, there's no way I could fall victim to that, but these are employees at a major tech firm that fell victim to it. Nonetheless, that all resulted in about 130 accounts getting hacked. They tweeted from 45. They accessed the direct messages of 36, and they also downloaded some data for up to, they said 7 accounts. So they actually corrected what they had previously said 8. But nonetheless, big news coming out of that, just showcasing how much data they had access to. Now, Twitter has said they've restricted access to even some of their employees now as they figure out how to make sure this doesn't happen again. But an update on that great Twitter hack. You can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on here with trending news, let's go to TikTok. Now, they were not investigated this week necessarily by the Antitrust Committee, but there are investigations going on. But that's not the only thing they're going against. Triller, which is a rival app, has now put in a patent lawsuit against them for some things that they say they created and that Twitter has been using. So this patent infringement suit claims that the systems and methods for creating music videos synchronized with an audio track was something that Triller already had, and they want to go after TikTok for this. Now, there's also the possibility that Triller could be going after other competing firms as well. That could be Dubsmash, could be Reels for when that launches on Instagram, and a couple of other ones. But this is particularly just against TikTok, and this is a slew of things that TikTok is facing right now, but this lawsuit coming out there saying that they also had a green screen video effect that TikTok is using that was something that Triller had already created. So we'll see where the lawsuit goes. That's what's going in right now, but there is something that's pretty well timed on with this lawsuit, and that's the fact that there is an investigation into TikTok right now and whether or not they're going to be banned from the United States. There's a security investigation where we expect an announcement actually could be any time. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said it could be at the end of the week. It's the end of the week, so we'll see if that gets announced. But Triller, it's being reported, is raising $200 to $300 million during this talk because if TikTok is banned, they're sitting in a good position. But nonetheless, that's the news. A patent lawsuit out against TikTok from Triller. Read more about it at digitaltrends.com. Continue on trending news. Let's talk about new phones. Now we know Samsung's going to have their event next week, but Google is going to beat them to the punch reportedly with the new Google Pixel 4a. This is a highly anticipated phone following on the Google Pixel 3a from last year. This is the mid-tier phone from Google, and it's going to be on August 3rd, according to a teaser that they put out showcasing it. So this went on a bunch of their social media devices. Now, if you take a look at the ads, actually, it's kind of clever. It looks like, you know, that the gibberish words that go on there when you're just showcasing a document before anybody types anything in. But if you read it, it's got words like megapixelum, low lightina, and long-lastingest batterium. So all those are in there. So it's rumored to have a 5.8-inch OLED display. It's going to use the Qualcomm Snapdragon 730 processor. Again, this is all based on leaks, and we're kind of seeing some right there. A lot of times these get leaked ahead of time. It's reportedly going to have 6 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, and a 12-megapixel camera, and a price of around $350, which, if so, it's going to be a very good competitor to the iPhone SE, and probably a pretty good follow-up to that Google Pixel 3a. But we'll have to see more on Monday. So again, that's August 3rd is when it's anticipated, based on what they put out, that we're going to get to see this phone, and then there'll be a lot more phone news coming up, so definitely check all that out at digitaltrends.com. You know, we're trending news. Let's go back to Amazon, but we're not talking about shopping. We're talking about the internet. So this is something that Amazon's been planning for a while, and they just received FCC approval for Project Kuiper. Now, this is their plan to put satellites up around the globe to bring 5G. Actually, they said it could help with 5G access, but mainly bring broadband internet access to more people. You may have heard about this before because that's Starlink from SpaceX is already doing this. They have quite a few satellites up already, but this Amazon plan would let them put up a constellation of 3,236 satellites, and they said they plan to invest $10 billion into this to bring this global internet in. They're going to be focusing on the United States at first. I mean, I will say, something we've talked about here before, broadband internet access is very, very important, and there's a large number of people who do not have access. One estimate put it at 4 billion people don't have access to that. So this is a big move. As we see more companies do this, some of the issues, though, are issues we're seeing with Starlink in the fact that all of these satellites up there are kind of playing havoc with astronomers, with different telescopes. So we'll see how this goes in, if Amazon maybe has a plan to mitigate some of those issues. But nonetheless, they do have approval. We don't know when they're going to be launching it, but Project Kuiper is something that could be bringing satellite internet to you soon. Read about it, digitaltrends.com. And finally, big space news tomorrow. So SpaceX, of course, sent Bob and Doug up to the International Space Station with that Crew Dragon capsule, and now they're going to be heading back down. The plan is on Saturday, August 1st, that the 2 astronauts are going to hop back into the Crew Dragon capsule. They're going to depart from it and then get a safe distance away. The way it works is they then do 4 different firings of it from their rockets to actually get in position. The journey could take around 6.5 hours. It kind of depends on where they are in position. The plan is to splash down in Florida, but they don't know exactly where off of Florida yet because it kind of depends on what the weather's going to be and where they're going to actually land, and then they'll be recovered from sea by NASA and SpaceX. So to explain a little bit of what you'll see tomorrow, because it's going to be a very big event. They're going to have like a farewell ceremony that's going to be going on. Then they're going to be taking it from that, and the farewell ceremony starts at about 6:10 a.m. Pacific time, 9:10 Eastern, and then the undocking is about 2:15 Pacific, 5:15 Eastern p.m. And then the whole thing goes on. But it's going to take about 2 hours from undocking before it lands on the Earth. They're going to have to go through a number of different things, including they have once they get through the atmosphere at 18,000 feet, they've got a parachute that'll deploy, and then they've got another one that'll deploy at about 6,000 feet to bring them down to a safe landing speed. But definitely going to be an exciting moment. That'll complete that Crew Dragon capsule demo. Demo 2 is technically the name of the mission, and then that will officially make it completely in compliance with all the rules for SpaceX to be bringing people up to the International Space Station, and there's more launches that are planned beyond that. So they already have the astronauts picked out for it. But still, a big mission tomorrow. Will be really interesting and fascinating to see that. So you can read more about it at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
All right, our product of the day today is this. It's a Microsoft Surface Pro 7. This is the 12.3-inch touchscreen with the Intel Core i3, 4 gigs of memory, 128 gig solid state drive, and it's got the black type cover. So this is super nice Microsoft Surface Pro. It has got the 10th gen Intel Core processor. It's got both USB Type-C and USB Type-A ports, so you can connect to any kind of display that you need. It's very slim, it's very light, starts off at 1.7 pounds. They claim an all-day battery life up to 10.5 hours, so it's not technically all day, but maybe all work day. 10.5 hours is what they're saying the battery life can go on that, and the ability to actually charge very quickly. I said about 80% charge in just over an hour. That's actually really impressive. So that is again, the product of our day. So the product of the day is the Microsoft Surface Pro 7. Now, normally this is $959. You can save $310 by following that link that is below me, to the side of me, whatever platform you're watching this on. Follow that link. Take advantage of the deal. Right now it is $650. So again, saving $310 on that. So $650 right now. Take advantage of that deal. That's our product of the day. All right, we've got more coming up here on Digital Trends Live, and that includes Ciara Pressler, who's joining us next for another edition of Work Life, where we're talking about passion. Do you have it for your job? Do you need it? Where can you get it? How do you get it? Well, Ciara's hopefully going to explain some of that for us next. So stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and once again, thanks for joining us wherever you are. We really do appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, and we get to have some great things on here and great conversations, and that's what's happening next for another edition of Work Life with Ciara Pressler, joining us to talk about important things that affect all of us. Ciara, hello. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's Friday, YOLO and all that.
All of that. Well, with that, and along those lines, you help us out all the time with different things when it comes to work and different things that people are going through. And for this, let's talk about passion. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I am here to talk to you about a YOLO thing. You only live once, so how important is it that you love what you do? This is kind of a recent phenomenon, and it's super popular in American culture, and maybe the younger you are, that you need to be passionate about your work. in my work, coaching people on their business life, on their work life. I'll get people who come to me and they say, my job's great and I like the people and I like the work, but I'm not passionate about it. And so I want to talk about whether that is something you should actually factor in.
Yeah, and that is something, you do hear that kind of terminology a lot about, having passion for it. So is that something, I guess, when you factor this in, where does that kind of come from? How is this something that people can assess?
Yeah, well, of course, feeling like you have to feel 100% about everything in your life all the time is a pressure of our culture, and also something that is really convenient in like marketing and advertising. But we have to look at how life really works from day to day. You're not always going to feel 100% about everything that you're doing, and that is okay. Sometimes you can do something that you're passionate about, and once it becomes your job, you don't feel so passionate about it anymore. When I was in my career change, I was really passionate about running and distance running. And so I thought, well, maybe I should go into the sports industry and work with running. And then I realized, you know what? If I have to show up at 4 a.m. to set up a race instead of showing up at 8 a.m. to run the race, I'm not going to be passionate about running anymore. And so I knew it didn't need to be my full-time career because that would actually ruin the passion.
Right, going from that passion to work, and yeah, where that crossover kind of is. So looking at what some of the problems are with passion, I guess, kind of guide us through this. Like, where does the passion come from, and how do you got it? I've never said passion so many times in my life, but I mean, it really is. It's such an important thing. Kind of guide us through this. What should we know?
Yes. So what you need to know is that passion comes from enjoying what you're doing in the moment and being present. So you don't necessarily have to feel great about something all the time in order to feel moments of passion. I prefer to think about work and tasks that energize me, that help me to feel in flow. I like things better once I am better at them. So the more I practice something and gain some expertise, the more I like it. My environment also matters a lot. So working with people I really enjoy being around creates a feeling of passion about my work because I develop really friendly and good feelings about my team. And then that makes me enjoy the work I'm doing more, which leads to passion. So you don't necessarily have to know when you're looking for work, looking for a career, deciding on a job that you're going to feel passionate about it every single day. Something you can also develop over time in a career that you're choosing or in the job that you have right now.
So it's something that can kind of come and go. I think that's definitely interesting, or something to take into factor. Like, if it's not like, okay, I don't love this right this moment, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world. That can kind of change as time goes. So for somebody who's looking out there, but does want to love what they do, and wants to figure that out, what are some different things they can do to try to follow that path?
Sure. So, experiment, get curious, follow that curiosity. What do you want to learn more about right now? Always interview people who are in jobs that you find interesting, career paths that you're interested in taking, especially if you're thinking about going back to school, retraining, doing some sort of career development program. Talk to people who've been through it and get their experience. Of course, for you, it might be different, but it'll give you some more insight about what it's really like to be inside that career. Also, it's never been easier to create a side hustle. So you can always go out and try something on the side before dedicating full time to it. Sometimes passion is a privilege and you just need to pay the bills. And especially now when the economy can feel a little bit uncertain depending on which industry you're in, to feel like you have to be doing what you love all the time. Sometimes your job and the benefits that it provides for you, or the compensation that it provides for you, gives you the opportunity to pursue the things you're passionate about on evenings and weekends and in your spare time.
Nice. That is great advice, actually, and I love that. Even thinking about it from that standpoint too, of one thing can fuel the other thing. That's great. Well, for everybody out there, and again, if you have anything else you want to add in too, please tell us. But if not, where can people find out more information about what Ciara is passionate about?
You can definitely go to pregamemagazine.com. That is a great content site that I am the editor of. And if you just search passion, you'll see not only my take on the topic, but other people's as well. And of course, catch up with me on social media. I'm at the Mayoress.
The mayoress, indeed. Ciara, as always, thank you so much for being here. I love these segments. I want to remind everybody, too, we've got these up at digitaltrends.com. People can go back through and take a look at it, especially right now as we're all kind of, everybody's career is a little bit different right now, regardless of where you're at in it. So there's always some great advice there. And Ciara, thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too. Ciara Pressler right here on Digital Trends Live, as she is every other week with Work Life, and it's always a great segment, so appreciate her so much. Coming up next, we've got Tech Briefs. Yes, another edition of our podcast where I'm going to recap some of the biggest stories in tech from last week, so as you go into the weekend, you'll know what you need to know. You can maybe tell other people, but that's coming up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and it's now time for Tech Briefs, where we recap some of the biggest stories in tech from the past week so that you know what you need to know going into the weekend. Let's start off with certainly one of the biggest stories, and that has to do with the antitrust hearings from the Congressional Committee to take a look at four of the biggest tech companies in the world, and that is Facebook, Google, Apple, and Amazon. All four of their CEOs showing up virtually in front of Congress. So the first time you have these four together, although it was also the first time you've seen something virtually like this. And naturally, there were some tech issues that did show up. They used WebEx. There was a few times where they actually had to pause because they couldn't get somebody in, which in a way was just kind of fitting for the situation. But nonetheless, talking about what came down with that. So they did cover a lot of different things, and ostensibly this is to determine whether or not these four companies are in violation of antitrust laws by suppressing competition. I mean, they're four of the biggest companies on the planet, so that's why they're getting investigated. But the questions that they got, some of them actually address some of those issues. Some of them, one in particular that stood out to me was addressing Google as far as online advertising, because they both sell and place the ads. They're on both sides of the coin. Is that kind of a monopoly? And could that be ruled that way? Well, that's something that was covered. But the rest of it, a lot of it, had to do with political vendettas. There were questions that were asked that were just completely had nothing to do with antitrust hearings. A lot of times the representatives would step over the CEOs when they'd start answering. They'd just cut them off. There was one time where one of the reps actually asked Facebook about a Twitter problem. He confused the two companies as far as what was going on. So it's another example, I think, of a lot of times when it comes down to these hearings, these are four of the biggest tech CEOs in the world. There's important questions that need to be addressed with all four of them and all four of their companies and how they operate. And maybe these aren't the best people to be asking those questions. Maybe we need to bring in some more experts, but that's just my thought on that. To give you a little bit more of the news, though, after that, they did the next day, of course, all four of these companies released their profit statements, and it turns out they're all doing quite well. So to get a little bit of a rundown on that, Amazon doubled its profits since last year to this for this last quarter to $5.2 billion. You also had their net sales increase from 40% to increased 40% to $88.9 billion. But that was their net sales just in that quarter alone. That's of course because of the pandemic and the fact that everybody's shopping online. They expanded their grocery offerings. You had Facebook, which was going through a boycott. There was an organized boycott by a number of different organizations, but Stop Hate for Profit being one of the big ones, try to get companies not to advertise on their platform. And Facebook said, Okay, that's fine. We'll take that. And it turns out they were fine. They actually still came away with a very big profit for that quarter, or a very big profit during this. And they just don't think that that's going to affect them. And it doesn't seem to be. So there are actually pushes for that to say, hey, look, we boycotted and Facebook still made all this money. There's another sign that this could be in violation of antitrust laws. So you've got Apple also with 59.7 billion, quarterly profit of 11.25. Google was the only one that actually went down slightly, which was kind of interesting, although it's very slight in the grand scheme of things. So last year they made 38.9 billion. This year they made 38.3 billion in revenue. So it's a 2% decrease, but you know, we'll see where that goes. The full antitrust report in hearing is supposed to be, or the full antitrust report actually from Congress is expected to come out this fall, and it's going to incorporate these interviews, but also millions of different documents that they've gathered and interviews. And so then we'll see where this goes, whether there's going to be regulation of tech. The ramifications are huge. Are some of these companies going to have to be broken up? You know, what kind of regulations go in place? It certainly is going to be a big issue, but we'll probably hear more about it coming up this fall. You can read a lot, though, at digitaltrends.com right now. Continuing on with another company who's in the news a lot this week, one that was not necessarily investigated by the Antitrust Committee, but still being investigated is TikTok. A few different things, just to run down some of the stuff that TikTok has done this week. One, they are going to be, they announced that they have a plan to pay their creators over $2 billion over the next few years, and that's to try to keep everybody there on TikTok and not go away. So $2 billion, that's up from, originally it was $200 million. So they've gone into 10 times that to $2 billion to try to pay their TikTok stars, and that's because they're facing a lot of competition. You have companies like Facebook coming out with Reels, which is supposed to be coming out in August. We don't know the exact rollout, but it's going to be part of Instagram, and that's their direct competitor to TikTok. Now it's already out in India, Brazil, Germany, and some other countries, but it'll be launching in the US coming up. So Reel's going to be one. They're also facing a lawsuit from rival Triller, which is a patent lawsuit that said that their systems and methods for creating music videos synchronized with an audio track is something that they created, and that TikTok is in violation of this patent. Now, conveniently, Triller is also, it's being reported that they've raised $200 to $300 million because of the fact that there's the talk of a TikTok ban from the United States, and they'd be well positioned for that. And speaking of that, I've got a couple other things. TikTok CEO Kevin Mayer actually made a number of different, put out a blog post talking about a report they're going to be doing, which is a transparency and accountability center, where they're going to showcase everything. Because, of course, a lot of the talk, a lot of the concerns about the security of TikTok is that people think that it's giving data to the Chinese government because it's a Chinese-based company. They're saying that they've got an American CEO. This is how they've been battling it. They also said they're going to reveal their algorithm, and they took shots directly at Facebook during this and said Facebook they're accusing them of attacks that are disguised as patriotism. So going directly at Facebook and actually naming them in this statement. Now, they are facing one other thing too, well, a number of things, but there is a security investigation that's supposedly going on right now, which we may see a report this week, and that's because the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, said that he's going to be making a recommendation on action regarding TikTok sometime this week. So by the time you listen to this could be out, but nonetheless, that's something they're doing. So TikTok, a lot in the news for that. And the final thing here that you need to know for this coming up weekend is this: the Mars launch, well, from this past week, the Mars launch to send the Perseverance rover worked very well. It's on its way. So Perseverance is on its way to Mars, and just to kind of recap a little bit of that for you, this is a very big mission. Perseverance's goal is to actually search for signs of ancient life on Mars to see if they ever existed. So they're actually going to a crater that used to be, they believe, a lake bed. They think would be a good spot to do this. It's got all kinds of different very high-tech tools. It's able to vaporize rocks from 20 feet away with a laser. It's got a drill, and it's also going to be gathering rocks for another purpose, and that is to bring some of those rocks back to Mars. It's part of this whole big plan called the Mars Sample Return Campaign, where the idea is, if this, again, it has to land, it has to be successful here to begin with, but if it is successful, then another rover would come in 2026, gather the rocks from Perseverance, and then launch from the surface of Mars and then be picked up by something else that would take it back to Earth. So it's a huge campaign that they're doing here with this, but still pretty cool. They've also got the Ingenuity helicopter that's going to be on there, another very big piece of technology. First time a helicopter is going to be deployed on the surface of another planet, so that's pretty exciting stuff. And if that's successful, it could give us amazing viewpoints, but also help plan out future exploration of Mars. So February 18th, 2021 is when it is expected to make it to Mars. And it's going to be there with some company because you've got the Tianwen-1 launch from China, which is sending up an orbiter, a rover, and a lander at the same time. They launched just a week before that. You've got the UAE with their orbiter. So everybody's getting to Mars in about February 2021. So it's going to be a pretty exciting time for space exploration. You can read more about it there at digitaltrends.com. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Digital Trends Live. We appreciate it. We're here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and all of that. Next week, we've got another packed week. We've got, well, you probably heard about the boxing match between Jake Paul and Nate Robinson. Well, we're going to hear from both of them, both Jake Paul and Nate Robinson, about their boxing match. We're going to be talking to them and all kinds of other amazing guests that we always have here on the show. I'm going to be out on Monday. Mr. Caleb Dennison will be filling in for me, so thank you to Caleb. Caleb will be here, but then I'll be back on Tuesday for all the rest of the action this week. And everybody have a great weekend. I'm Greg Nibbler. We'll talk to you right back here on Monday with another edition of Digital Trends Live.